All right, good morning. We are live here at day one of MODEX 2026, and we are on Podcast Row, and we are going to be live for the next about 2 hours today to kick it off for MODEX here this week here in Atlanta. So thank you for tuning in and joining us. Today, we are going to be doing a deep dive on all things ASRS, that's automated storage and retrieval systems. Today's live stream is brought to you by MHI's ASRS Industry Group. MHI has all of these different industry groups if you are not familiar, and MHI is the host of MODEX, of course, if you're not familiar with that as well. But these industry groups serve as a resource for the operators, material handlers out there to navigate some of these different solutions that we see on the MODEX floor. So today we're going to concentrate on the ASRS side, and kicking things off with me here is someone that was on the podcast back in 2019 at my first ProMat. Actually, we have Corey Calla. He's the president and CEO with Sencor White, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about ASRS today, of course. So, Corey, welcome in. Good morning. How is the kickoff for MODEX for you?
It's been, normal Atlanta traffic, struggling to get here, but it's great to be on the show again, Kevin.
Yeah.
As I was mentioning before the show went live, I think it's great what you have done for the industry. We see your stuff everywhere. So it's been exciting to see how you've educated the market
Yes.
in what's out there.
Absolutely appreciate that, and the beginning, like 7 years ago, it was just a month in. So appreciate you coming by here and talking to us. So why don't you kind of kick us off here? Tell us a little bit about Sencor White and what it is y'all do.
Yeah, so Sencor White is I like to call it a intelligent storage and retrieval business. Trying to use that vertical space within a warehouse. So anything from VLMs, carousels, both vertical, horizontal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So good to get you on here. And definitely, since this is, and we're kicking it off here, you're the first guest of the day, right? And since this is ASRS focused, why don't you kind of give us what is the definition of ASRS, right? Because it's covering kind of a broad landscape nowadays, I would say.
Yeah, so ASRS is really anything automated storage and retrieval. So it's any of the different technology systems, which include, software, mechanical, electrical components of put away and retrieval, automatic ways to do that. So, and it can go very deep where it's highly automated, or very basic where you're just trying to up your storage footprint.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about, you mentioned you do VLMs, right? So tell us a little bit kind of about that category of ASRS and what that's all about.
Yeah, so VLMs are a great entry point for operators that are trying to enter this market. So somebody that's not really played in automation yet, but is looking to get in it. It's a great first low-cost option to try to dabble, into ASRS. So, in our specific case, we have several different machines that target different aspects of what you're trying to achieve. So if it's just basic storage, we have a standard lift. If you're trying to increase pick speeds, we have what's called a compact double that helps increase that tray delivery. And then if it's just dense storage where you have a lot of material with maybe low turns, we have another product that's specific for that. So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. One nice thing about all VLMs across the market, they increase ergonomics of the operators picking from a standard height. They're not bending, lifting, climbing ladders, pulling things down with the chance to get injured. They're secure. There's great records about who pulled what when. So not only do you get the storage benefit, but you get a lot of other benefits around it that come natural as part of that VLM.
Yeah, absolutely. And VLM, I guess for people maybe that are not familiar, essentially like just a tower, right?
It's a tower,
basically, right? And it's kind of presenting the goods at the bottom, right? It's kind of like rotating through almost, I guess would be a way to describe it.
Yeah, carousel would be a rotating
carousel.
A VLM is going to have a central elevator.
Okay.
That's running the center corridor, and it's storing trays both in the front and back. So across the industry, people do it a little different. There's different ways. Most of our machines, we dynamically store stuff. So as it goes into the machine, we measure the height of the tallest product on that tray. So we optimize that storage within there so you can fit as much as possible into that machine. So there are different ways to, we do have static storage shelves in some projects, but for the most part, we're dynamically storing things. We can optimize them, and we can tell the operator when there's more room to store more stuff within that tower.
Interesting. And one of the, kind of, I guess, reasons that people go after, right, the ASRS or these VLMs, right, is the ability to maximize some of the storage space, right, and the cubic, maximization of that utilization. So tell us a little bit about, what kind of, sometimes do people maybe misunderstand about that, or what do they miss if that's like their only focus?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people just see it again as a storage play, but there's so much that comes with it. And again, it really depends on your process. I tell people not to get too wrapped around the machine and how it's going to change their operations. Right? They think, oh, I'm going to buy this piece of equipment. I'm going to revamp my process. I'm going to make everything different. I always tell everybody when that happens, don't change your process. Just introduce the technology. The shelf is moving to the operator instead of the operator walking to pick something on the shelf. So I'm very specific to customers. Do not change your process because you're buying this piece of equipment right now. In the future, once you learn how this equipment works, the software works, absolutely you want to revamp that process. But go in slow. Most customers want to go in and redo everything, and they end up, blowing their process. Yeah.
All right. Good to know. And we got Ed Romaine here Bob Jones, joining us from ISD. So Bob, tell us a little bit. We're just kind of defining ASRS as we're kicking off the live stream here, but tell us a little bit about how ISD fits into the ASRS category.
Well, we are a systems integrator, so we supply a lot of these types of technologies to all kind of dependent on the operations. The points you were making is the machines are a means to an end. It's not the end. So fitting up the right technology for the right operation, I think a lot of people have that reversed. So we start there and we kind of work our way through and see how we can match the right equipment for the process that we're trying to invoke in the operation.
Yeah, great. And tell us a little bit about how does somebody that manufactures and produces like a unit, how do you work with integrators? How do you guys come together?
Well, our job really is to provide the manufacturers the right data sets, like what we're trying to accomplish, what's the process steps, what are we trying to accomplish, dynamics on the inventory model, dynamics on the order profiling, which is something that a lot of people miss. They keep focusing on, I've got to get product to someone, and we're thinking, well, how do you get orders in and out of that operator station that fast, which can sometimes be the actual critical element. So our job is to say, what do we need to provide to the manufacturer so they can do the best analysis possible from their end.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And some of those components too, as you mentioned, kind of get missed. But I'm curious, like, I'm sure a lot of people this week right here on the MODEX floor are going to be asking this question of like, well, how do I get to my ROI, right? So when we look at ASRS, I mean, how do you both kind of define what does ROI look like for an ASRS implementation or system going into place?
Well, so my background is I was a VP of operations, so I'm heavily steeped into the financial part. And what I find is most people really underestimate the real savings on a system like this if they implement it properly. One is, simple ROI, like a 2-year payback. You're changing the underlying structure of the entire distribution center. So you have to start understanding things like internal rate of return, net present value of these systems over 5-7 years. And then the other thing is, a lot of times they don't forecast the financial impact over a time horizon and the way it holds labor at a consistent rate. And the final thing is, sometimes they don't take account all the infrastructure modifications that they need to take on. It's not just buying the system. So it's really giving them an ROI package that makes sense, that they can take to upper management. And I've always say this, it's not an operational play, it's a financial play. It just happens to have an operational component.
I see. Okay. And what about from your side, Corey?
And it's interesting to hear Bob as a operations person. I'm not an operations person, so to hear Bob, I look at a lot more of they're hard costs, but they're soft costs, right? So what is that space that you're going to gain back from implementing that system? Even I go into a lot of warehouses and I talk to I talk to the workers, and they always say, I hate walking 7 miles a day. So, so employee retention is another huge benefit of these systems, because somebody can be working in 1, 2, 3 of these machines and walking a very small distance compared to what they were doing before. It minimizes that physical labor of again, lifting, bending. We've even seen the systems pay back in sick days and things like that.
And I'll even go a step further, because one of the things that we have heard a lot is it's not even about reduction of costs in labor. It's about we can't find enough labor. So this now goes into workforce transformation. So what I always try to tell people is you're competing with other big players in that space for local talent. So if you can reduce your labor cost, then increase what you're paying out for the people, the more technical people that you have left, you have really transformed your workforce into, instead of being transient based on, in and out labor, you have people there who are career minded, looking for a path forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a huge unlock to point out there, because that is such a challenge, right? I'm a former ops guy myself too, right? And I know where I was in New Jersey, highly concentrated, that it was very hard to keep people because there was a warehouse next door. There's a warehouse down the street, right? So, they have the upper hand, the labor, right? In a sense, right? So being able to give that great work environment, I think, is a fantastic thing.
Yeah. And studies show that about 25 to 35% of the labor force in distribution centers turned over year over year. So another ROI is estimates are about $6,000 to $10,000 per person to replace them.
Yeah. That's not no small change, right? Nope. I mean, very interesting there. So very interesting to kick off the day with both of you, and appreciate you coming in here. We're going to be diving deeper into ASRS as this live stream continues with some other guests. But Bob, if people want to get in touch with ISD or learn more, what's the best way to do that?
Well, you can reach us at www.isddd.com. That's our website. We are over in the B building. So we have a booth there, and actually I'll be speaking later on this afternoon on a session on goods to person and what every decision maker should know.
Sounds like you know your stuff. So I would check that out if you're here. So, and Corey, what about Sencor White? How can we learn more?
www.sencorwhite.com, or go to ISD, as they rep our equipment as well. So you can find us either way.
You got 2 different ways to get in there. Definitely. Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you both for coming by the booth here and talking to us this morning. And we'll see you out there on the exhibit floor.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Thanks, Kevin.
Have a good one. Thank you. All right. That was Corey Calla of Sencor White and Bob Jones of ISD. You guys can go. We're good. And then we're going to bring in our next guest here on our ASRS live stream. And we're going to be talking about the containers that go in there. But first, shout out to Aaliyah Clark. Hello. Oh, Mr. Kerbo checking in from Lancaster too as well. What's up, Elam? How are you doing? If you're listening in, let us know where you're listening from. And if you got questions too, drop them in the comments and we'll get those answers for you. So up next here, we have Amanda Vernalia, right? G is silent, she told me, so I was learning that earlier. So Amanda is the director of target development for Rerig Pacific, and they handle all the things that go inside the ASRS, right? So she's going to tell us a little bit about that. But first off, how are you feeling day 1 of MODEX?
Happy MODEX Monday.
Happy MODEX.
Feel the excitement. It's palatable.
I feel it. Yeah. People are like flowing in here. We're actually like, you can't see this on the live stream, but we're like by the escalator, so we can just see the people like coming down this morning. It's pretty fascinating to kind of get the view of all the movement of people, right? So thank you so much for coming in and joining us here. So we're talking all about ASRS today. So tell us what you all do in the ASRS realm.
Yeah, so Railroad Pacific has been around for over a century. We started in traditional material handling, so think, wood items, and we've transitioned over the years to more sustainable, reusable assets. They're a fourth generation family owned company. We also have over 60 years of design experience with reusable assets. We have a wide breadth and depth in our design team, so we can do custom solutions, we can do market solutions. We're here to partner to make sure that your reusable assets work well and they work correctly the first time, every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good thing to have, definitely. But 100 years, 100 years in the game, that's good, definitely. So tell us a little bit about, from the container perspective and ASRS perspective, what actually do you provide for the ASRS itself?
Yeah, so we can do everything from plastic pallets to totes and pallet support boards, lids, collapsible crates, nestable crates.
Yeah.
You name the thing, we can do it. We are injection molded plastics.
Gotcha. Okay. And obviously a very critical part of the ASRS, right? But tell us a little bit about, because it seems like a tote is a tote, maybe, right? But I'm guessing you're going to say, no, that's not the case, right? So tell us a little bit about, why is that such a critical part, whether it's the tote or the pallet or a collapsible container, whatever the case may be, for that implementation in that system? Why is that so important?
Yeah, so I definitely have the hot take in the industry, I think. So
Give it to us. Yeah.
I've worked around a little bit, both as integrator, end user, supplier, and my hot take is a tote is not a tote. It's not a tote. We often think of it as a commodity item.
Yeah.
Often left, to the last decision. Oh, we've got to buy a tote. Where do we get it?
Yeah.
Pick up the phone. Hope it's here the next day. It's actually a very strategic asset, right? It is really where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
And that is what carries the physical flow and the data to your system. So it's actually very important. And I think people should think about it more often upfront in the CapEx cost than, later in the OpEx model where, oops, we forgot a tote.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very interesting, right? Because you think about we see this, obviously these huge systems, we see some of them are going to be on the floor here that they've built as demos and things like that. But, also when we look at that, it's all right, well, I'm thinking about all these mechanical parts and the shuttles that are moving and all these things. And then it's oh yeah, the tote or the container that's going to where we're going to put the material on or in, it's kind of oh, okay, well, it's like you said, oh, it's just a commodity, right? But that becomes a critical step. So maybe tell us to highlight the importance of the choice and the decision of what type of container. Maybe tell us a little bit about maybe some missteps that you've seen people take on some of these projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I've seen people wait to the last minute and then order a tote that they think is very basic, but there are dimensional issues with the tote that causes jams and misreads and things like that.
That's not fun, I will tell you. Yeah.
So automation doesn't always fail dramatically. Sometimes it fails quietly and over time.
I like that. Yeah.
And you don't realize it until you see a lot of data output and you're wondering why your mechanics are on the floor, several hours out of the day, and you're losing efficiency, right? And so that could be the interaction of the tote and the conveyor, or the tote and maybe a barcode reader, or even the forks of an ASRS.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious on the tote side. I mean, because obviously, there's ASRS vendors, right? And they have their standard set type of systems that they build out. So do you have already set dimensions and standards for certain totes for certain manufacturers, or is everyone customized? How does that work?
So there's a little bit of both in the industry, and we're seeing a shift here recently, especially as a theme of MODEX this year is it moves from does it work to does it pay? That's interesting. That's kind of the new idea. And what that helps us understand is in the past, people have thought tote is a tote is a tote. So we're going to use a standard size, a 600, 400, 300. But now we're partnering with companies who think that it's part of their strategic play. And so they are coming to us and talking about specific customizations or items specifically for their system so that they know it works the first time every time with their system, and downtime is not caused because of that interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important. Like we were talking before we went live here, right? About, I've implemented a multi-shuttle system before, and it was overwhelming when the totes came in. Like there were so many totes that needed to go in that, and we didn't necessarily think about that as like this big step, right? But it was also like a critical step, right, to have the right totes, as you mentioned. But then it was also like a whole part of the project that like, oh wow, this is very time consuming to do this. So it becomes very, very important there. So talk to us a little bit about just like reusable assets in general within the supply chain right now. Why is that becoming such a important thing?
I think the key thing to remember is that the more we transition to automation, the more automation needs consistency. And a reusable asset can provide that, from dimensional tolerances, like our partnership with AutoStore,
Sure,
to deflection, to ensuring that we can carry that through the life of the product. Right, it often is more reusable than some other items that might be consumable, or if you think a tote is consumable. So we can hold that over much longer runs of tight tolerance production.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think it's great to do, because then you can reuse it over and over. And I mean, that's the point, right? And able to shift that between systems, or if you expand on the system, utilize it still. So very interesting there. And you mentioned there your partnership with AutoStore. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we worked very diligently this year to become an AutoStore supplier. And not only we were looking at things like, dimensional tolerance, but also stiffness and the life of the asset itself. We use some very cutting edge technology to get approved to be their vendor. And we're proud to announce that we're one of those in the Southeast.
All right. Well, congratulations on that. That sounds like good news there, definitely. So appreciate you coming in here and talking to us. These containers, these totes, critical part of ASRS, as we talked about here. So if people are interested in learning more, or maybe browsing your various offerings, what's the best way to do that?
Well, you can definitely come see us at the booth, A122, right here on the floor. You can go to www.rarepacific.com, or feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Amanda Vernalia. We're happy to have a chat and see how we can help.
All right, fantastic. And definitely check them out, and make sure that you think about those containers, those totes that are going into your ASRS as part of the project. A tote is not a tote, I think is what Amanda said there, right? That's the quote for today.
That's the quote for today.
The tote quote.
Tote quote.
Oh, I like that.
Kevin, I like it.
All right, there we go. Amanda, fantastic. Thanks so much for coming by. Definitely check them out, and make sure you consider those as well. So if you're just tuning in, we are talking everything ASRS today. And up next, we are going to have some friends join us from High Robotics to talk about their ASRS system and what they're up to. Summer Black in the comments, I see you there. You guys have chocolate at your booth. Okay. We will be by for sure for some chocolate. So welcome in here. How are you guys? We got Colin and Hunter joining us from High Robotics. How's everything?
Day one.
Yeah.
Going great.
So it's going well so far. We're 24 minutes in. So
it's funny making the way to your booth. We're like we're fish swimming upstream, because you've got the masses that are coming in,
and you're trying to come.
And we're trying to come out. It's like, we should have planned this better.
Yeah. Well, it's great to get you guys in here to talk a little ASRS action. So you guys are with High Robotics. So maybe quickly tell us what High Robotics is all about for people that aren't familiar.
Yeah.
Hunter?
So High Robotics is an OEM, to try to not overuse acronyms, original equipment manufacturer, specialized in mobile automated storage and retrieval systems. So extremely excited to be at the show today, show it off to our partners and customers, and have a good showcase of the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And great to get you guys in here. So you guys fall into the ASRS category, which is what we're talking all about this morning here on this live stream. But you have a kind of climbing approach to ASRS, the high pick climb, right? I think is what you call it. So tell us a little bit about like what does that mean exactly, and like why is that different from some other systems that fall into this category?
I'll start, and then I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, go for it.
When you look at kind of the origin of ASRS technologies, right? It started with automating pallet storage, and you had cranes, and then it's like, well, now we need to break that modality down because customers want to order by mixed pallets, so we need to now be able to do cases.
Sure.
So you drop it down to mini loads, right? And then it's like, well, now we're getting into this new thing called e-commerce, right? I say new, it's about 20 years old now, but
still fresh.
Yeah. And so now we need to be able to do eaches and cases. And so that's where shuttles come from. And shuttles, great technology, but obviously, right, based on all the other variants of ASRS that we have out there were certain customer profiles, order profiles, volume profiles that needed more modularity, more flexibility, and arguably a different price point, let's just say, than what shuttles come in at typically. And so I think that opened the door for a lot of various ASRS technologies. And what I think I'm most proud of with our portfolio is that we have a lot of intentionally designed solutions around ASRS and those different modalities that need to be handled. And high pit climb, especially our double deep variant, which we're debuting, here today, is just that next step in our evolution of being very intentional about the features and the value that we're bringing to our customers relative to the changes in their order profile, the changes in their growth and forecast based on what's going on in the world. And I think it's just a very flexible and innovative piece of automation that people get to enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. The only thing I'd add to it is simplicity. And that is so important. And that was front of mind when we were developing the Climber solution. At the end of the day, customers need a solution that works. So it's a simple solution. You don't have lifts, you don't have elevators, you don't have these forced conveyor entry and exit points. It's a robot that climbs, retrieves a bin. That same robot goes to the floor and presents it to an operator. It's extremely simple. And then with a simple solution, typically you can get to customer success. And then as Colin denoted, you have the modularity, you have the flexibility, but it's the simplicity of it. When you look at the cost of entry, how quick lead times are, how we can get it standing. So that simplicity component is extremely important for end customers and prospects. When they see it, you understand it immediately because it's very simple. Bot climbs, retrieves, goes back to the floor, and then presents it to the operator. So simplicity was at the heart of the design.
Yeah, very interesting. And love simple, obviously, right? I mean, that's great for an operation. And obviously that's great for like implementing a new system, right? And being able to do that as well. So maybe on that simplicity note, like tell us a little bit about like, because the bot is climbing, right? I mean, rightfully so, called the high pick climb, right? Because that's what it does. But tell us a little bit about like from an infrastructure perspective, right? On that simplicity side, like what's different about the infrastructure of that solution versus like the traditional cubic type ASRS?
So that's really the beauty of it. And I'm glad you asked. I'll let Colin, if he wants to mention the grid-based and other types that he knows very well. But the beauty of the simplicity of it, it's just tote-based racking. So it's standard racking you would place totes on. And all we did is mount climbing channels to that tote-based racking. That's what the bot interlocks with. So not only is it simple from an infrastructure standpoint, but also it's simple in the fact that it only has 2 points of contact. So it's 2 climbing channels, bot latches on, and then it climbs from there. So it's simple from an infrastructure and in terms of how the bot interacts with the racking, all of these factors leading to customer success.
Interesting. Okay. So definitely more simple on the infrastructure perspective then. So really interesting there. And then tell us a little bit about kind of too, I mean, as people, obviously I'm sure there's a ton of people here in Atlanta. I'm sure you guys hope there's a ton of people that are assessing ASRS systems, right? And looking at the different variations here. What is kind of maybe the right fit for you all versus, looking at a different type of solution? Like who is the ideal profile or product type that's going to fit into like the high pick climb system?
Honestly, we welcome all types.
Okay.
And I think that's part of the beauty. We were talking a little bit here about in the last question about, grid-based systems, for example, and grid-based systems do very well when, 80% of your volume is from 20% of your SKU base, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I know that working for a former, cube-based company myself, I know there's a lot of drag on the digging and everything else. And yeah, that's problematic. But in reality, what we need to focus on is when we're trying to do what's right for the customer, what's best for the customer, let's look at how quickly your inventory is turning over. Let's look at the other rules that are a part of your operation. And let's look at the velocity at which those items have to move through a pick station. And you need to go, all right, can you wait the 4, 5, 6 minutes to get that product that's at the very bottom? Or based on your SLAs, based on the other products that are going in that order, do you need that tote now?
Yeah.
And one of the beauties of the Hypit Climb is that you can go retrieve any tote in the system and have it in front of a person in less than 2 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so it plays very well to that 80-20 curve still.
Mm-hmm.
But as you back away from that and more of your velocity comes from more of your SKU range, that's where you need that random access type of availability.
Yeah.
And the autonomy that any robot can go grab any bin and bring it to any pick station. And you can't say that about shuttles. You can't say that about some cubic systems. And so I really think that, again, at the heart of our design is that simplicity and that ability to just match a customer's operational pain points to what's in our solution profile and go, we think we have a solve for you.
Yeah, interesting. So covering a vast array of product types then, and also I imagine a vast array of number of SKUs too, right? In terms of like quantity of SKUs, and sounds like a good fit for somebody that has, you know, tons and tons of SKUs, right? To be able to have that same kind of frequency and timing of retrieving that product there. So really interesting there. And now let's talk a little bit about, from the ASRS perspective, kind of the labor impact that comes into play, right? So like when you implement an ASRS system, whether it's you guys or another one, whatever the case may be, I mean, how do you look at that labor, and how does the customer usually adjust to be able to accommodate whatever is happening, right? So there should be some efficiency gains and things like that, but what does that actually look like in reality?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, it varies based on what the current setup is for that that particular client. But at the end of the day, if they're operating in a manual aspect, that operator is being forced to physically walk around, go to the exact location, then pick and retrieve the product, and then physically walk to some sort of pack setup. Obviously, that walk time, that's a huge part where we are able to utilize our bots, because now the bots are doing the walk time in essence, so that the operator is then just standing at the workstation, and we can have bots continuously bring the product to the operator. So not only does it improve efficiency, but one thing some people forget about is accuracy. So if you think about it, people are physically walking to a location, maybe scanning the location. There can be accuracy issues there. We take that completely out of the equation, because you have a bot retrieving the respective bin, bringing it to the operator. So that's much improved efficiency. It's improved accuracy, and you're getting higher throughput. And not to mention ergonomics is extremely important. So an operator is standing at an ergonomic workstation. They're not tirelessly walking around for 8 hours a day. So there's a lot of advantages and efficiencies. And then one other thing from an ROI perspective that people tend to forget is people want to work with robots.
Yeah.
We tend to think it's voodoo or robots are taking, it's not the case.
Yeah.
If you actually go look and interview operators, they love interacting with robots, and it brings excitement and just energy into the warehouse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great way to look at it too. And I think that, you know, that certainly I know that from my past, right, the employees, they don't like walking a lot, right? And whether we're walking for 8 hours or more, right, that productivity kind of dips off towards the end of the day because they're just fatigued, right? I mean, that's just the way we are as humans, right? So being able to keep them in more of a centralized location and reduce that amount of travel and things like that is a great benefit as well. So very interesting there. And tell us, I guess, as we kind of close out our conversation here, as people are navigating this, like what are some of the factors, like the top factors that people should be considering when they look at ASRS?
I think for me, the first thing that I have always, you know, my sales career, when I talk with customers, it's like, do you trust your data? And I know we talked about this a little bit at Manifest, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's so important because you're about to make a decision that's going to fundamentally change your operation and the direction of your business. And you're going to make a significant investment from a capital standpoint, a change management standpoint, to move your company into this next phase to be able to realize the growth that you're projecting is going to happen. If you're going to take all that on and you don't trust your numbers, you don't trust your data to the point where you're like, I fully agree that this is going to get me there. That's step one, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but me personally, you know, these sales cycles take a lot longer when you as a salesperson have to convince that customer of what their data is telling them versus them coming to you and saying, I trust my data and it's telling me it's time. That's music to our ears. And quite honestly, that's what any responsible, accountable sales executive at any ASRS company should be doing first is let's talk about your operation. Let's make sure you trust all the reasons why this is that next investment for you and that next step for your operation and for your workforce. Because then from there, you can get the buy-in, and it's easier to have those technical conversations, those future leadership change management conversations,
Sure.
and things seem to get momentum from there.
I 100% agree. The only thing I would add to that with a bit of a different spin, because the data is 100%, but it's also look for a partner that's investing in you as well, right? You come to the show, there's going to be a lot of technology. There's a lot of new features, new innovation, and it's fun. It's exciting. We're all engineers and nerd out over it. At least I do myself.
Sure, yeah. I do.
Yeah, and I know he does. It's important. Find someone that invests in you. As Colin alluded to, these aren't short sales cycles. Colin and I aren't here to sell robots. We're here to invest in our partners and our end customers and ensure they meet customer success. It's not about robotics, robots, and our speeds and density and all that. At the end of the day, it's making sure our customers are successful. And I think that's extremely important. Don't just be infatuated with the technology, invest in the relationships, because you're here for the long haul.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's important to pick on a little bit further, because it's too easy to talk to a customer. And I mean, obviously I'm describing the ideal case here, but it's like, oh, you have a compelling event. Oh, you need to be live in 12 months. Oh, you've got $20 million. For any sales executive, for any revenue leaders out there, yeah, that's music to your ears. But to Hunter's point, the investment side of that and the accountability and responsibility side of that as a partner has to kick in, and you have to be hard on yourselves as the provider and the partner and go, can I realistically help them solve this problem and do it better than anybody else to maximize that customer experience?
Yeah.
And believe that you're the partner for them long term. And that's what have found very differentiating about High's approach. And I know our CEO Adrian, takes this very seriously, and he beats it into us, is to be customer obsessed. You have to think that way.
Yeah.
You have got to look at it beyond the timeline, the numbers, and everything else. You've got to look at it as, is our solution capability a match for this customer, and are we going to make them happier than anybody else? And I believe that's fundamentally changed how we've approached a lot of these projects and why we've been successful. And year over year, we're seeing more people come up to us and go, we've just heard so much about you. We see your brand everywhere. We want to know what all this buzz is about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are great points and great things to consider and put into that decision-making process. Obviously, starting with the data foundationally, whether it's looking at this or anything on the floor out here, like that data needs to be solid and trusted, I think is a great point to put there. So really appreciate you both coming here, talking to us. Tell us a little bit about the climbing option in the ASRS world. If people want to learn more about High Robotics, what's the best way to do that?
Well, ideally, you come to our booth over there in Hall B, but if you can't make it, come www.highrobotics.com.
All right, fantastic. So, Colin, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Hunter, good to see you too. All right, have a good rest of the show. And that is Colin and Hunter from High Robotics talking about the climbing field of ASRS. And up next, we are going to have Adam Gurga join us from SimCore. He's the director of sales over there. But let us know who's watching here. Show us in the comments. Tell us where you're tuning in from, and tell us, will you be at MODEX this week? If so, we'd love to see you. We'd love to connect with you. We're right outside here in. You come closer to me.
Snuggle up.
Yes, Adam. How are you, sir?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. How have you been? Good. So we're talking all things ASRS today. So welcome in, and you're with SimCore. So tell us a little bit about SimCore.
Yeah. So SimCore, we've established in 1975. We're part of the Muratech family group of automation companies globally. Muratech started in 1934, actually. So we've got a consolidated, pretty big and robust catalog of solutions and over 100 years of experience in automation.
Yeah, absolutely. 100 years. That's a decent amount.
Yeah,
got some experience there. Yeah, of course, definitely. So, but you all do, and we've had you on the podcast before. We talked about some of the kind of this specialization that you fit into. So tell us a little bit about some of these kind of specialized projects for particular industries. Like you do a lot for grocery and tires too as well. So tell us a little bit about that and how like ASRS comes into play there.
Sure. Yeah. So specifically, SimCore, two of our major categories are within the grocery retail space, and also within tire. And so the products that we handle both are critical to try to get out of the systems as quickly as possible, in and out of the systems as quickly as possible. So if you're talking tires, tires specifically, like most of our ASRS systems feed the production lines that move in the factories there, or they're pulling off the production lines from the ASRS, and they're moving into the automotive lines that are down the road there too.
I see.
So the criticality of those SKUs, those products that are coming out of there, if we miss a shipment of tires, then the entire supply chain for the automotive sector basically
backs up
and gets shut down.
Yeah.
So then you parlay that from what we do in tire over to grocery retail, and then specifically in the perishables industry, where you've got significantly sensitive products like produce, dairy, bakery, and we apply the same philosophy to that. So that freshness it's critical for our customers to make sure you're getting fresh product to the stores. So we take that same philosophy from tire, we focus that in perishables, and that's a lot where our software development, our WCS and our WES platforms come in.
Yeah, very interesting there. And I'm curious, you mentioned the ASRS feeding into the tire production line. So what is actually like stored in the ASRS? Is it rubber? I mean, what?
Yeah. So the tire industry is it's interesting because we handle mainly on the inbound. It'll be what they call green tires.
Okay.
So it's basically these big formless donuts of rubber that come in.
Oh, interesting.
They've got no tread. They've got no brand on them yet. And then we will store them. We'll bring them into a buffer system in ASRS. Then we'll deploy them into the press. And then the press is usually a separate production process there. We press the green tire into, or our customer will press the green tire into a tire, and then it comes out of production. We palletize that, and then we've got to ship it off. Sometimes it's through the wall, sometimes it's down the road to the actual automotive company.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm thinking, I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen a tire be made before. So it's really interesting to kind of get like that behind the scenes look at that. So tell us a little bit about, on the grocery side, like, as you mentioned, you have like some perishable items there and things like that. So tell us a little bit about, like, do you get involved in the cold storage side, and like, what does that look like from an ASRS perspective?
Yeah, so I mentioned before, like, we take a lot of the learnings and the philosophy from the tire industry, but also the history of what our parent company Murata has done for years with ASRS, and what SimCorp's really been able to do with companies over in Europe and here in North America as well. So in grocery, what we're starting to, and we've actually got a few projects that are going live this year and next year, is doing full end-to-end systems. So everything from the receiving process comes in. So you've got thousands of SKUs from hundreds of vendors that are coming into the distribution centers. We're storing that within our ASRS, and then we will strategically deploy that based on orders that drop from our WES and our WCS, the customer's WMS, and then we'll feed that into our system where we're doing single SKU pallet breakdown into cases, and then we feed that into our system, and as those orders drop, we'll build fully mixed case pallets out of those. And then depending on what the customer needs, and a lot of it is having conversations and understanding the pain points of the customer, we've got some solutions that can actually bring those mixed case pallets out to the trailers as well.
Interesting. And so you mentioned there a couple times about the WCS and the WES. It's kind of like doing all of that. So tell us a little bit about when we look at the like ASRS solution itself, and whether it's tied to another solution on the other side or the beginning side, right? How does that software play a part? And when people think about, entering into this realm of ASRS, like how should they consider that in the project itself?
That's a good question. It's a lot of upfront conversations about what you're trying to accomplish are critical. So, what we've really been pushing in terms of partnership with our customers is reliability, trust, making sure the design process is accurate as much as possible up front. So the ASRS, if we're taking a look at it, if we're building a new greenfield DC, even if it's in tire, some of these tire ASRSs, there's 60, 70,000 pallet positions each. You don't want to really oversize that or undersize that. You don't want to spend extra money, and you don't want to run out of room there.
Sure.
And then the WES and the WCS are critical for controlling the deployment of all those SKUs, whether it's tires or grocery pallets, to the picking modules that we have on time to make sure we can get those pallets out. So we kind of have a top-down layer where SimCorp develops the WES, which interfaces with the customer's WMS. Once underneath that the WES layer, we've got different modules of WCSs that are controlling everything. It could be the ASRS, it could be the case picking, but the fact that they harmonize together and make sure that we're delivering product to the case picking modules on time, that's what makes sure that the product gets out the door on time. So extremely critical to make sure that the ASRS, whatever's controlling that, is lining up with everything that's downstream of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really important thing to have, right?
Yeah.
Of course, right. And you mentioned there, making sure you don't go too big or too small, right?
Yeah.
So in the process, I guess, of the, initial evaluation and kind of figuring out what is this system going to look like, how do you find that sweet spot? Like, how do you know, and how do you factor in for, growth and things like that too as well?
It's a detailed process. So, in terms of making sure we've got the right people who are asking the right questions to the customer, and that our customers have access to the right data that they need as well. A lot of that goes into partnership early on. And one of the things that I tell a lot of our customers, and I think it's resonated pretty well with our customers, is as you start to make these decisions, don't hold back data from whoever your supplier is going to be. At some point in time, we've got to be a partner in this, and we're going to move forward with some fairly large investments into automating the supply chain. So some customers, they feel that they want to kind of hold their cards close to their chest and maybe not reveal too much early on in the process. And I understand where they're coming from a lot of the times with that, but I'd say be as open as possible, be as transparent as possible. And then from a supplier point of view, from SimCorp's point of view, we've got to be transparent back and say, hey, we don't have enough of this to make accurate designs here. We need you guys to go and try to find some more of that. So that communication early in the process is really critical to making sure you're right. Because again, you don't want to pay too much to build something too large that you're not going to utilize. And if you undersize it at some point in time, you're going to run out of space there too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So very interesting there. And I think, very interesting to hear how you kind of go about that and do that evaluation, and super fascinating too to hear about the tires. As right. I learned something today from that for sure. So really appreciate you coming by here and talking with us and sharing about some of these kind of more specialized projects and what goes into them and some of the details there as well.
Yeah. I would, the last thing I would just say is that, as you're, whether it's tire or produce or frozen, all of those categories are going to have a very different process in terms of how you're trying to design that storage and that inventory level there. So make sure you ask the right questions and make sure you have the right partners.
Absolutely. And hopefully on this live stream today, they're getting some of the right questions to ask and figuring that out. But if they got more questions to ask you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
We are in Hall B, and I am missing our booth number, but it's 12 something. Christopher. Yeah, this is our marketing coordinator, Chris.
Yes, she was not expecting to be live on the stream here today.
What's our booth number?
So you can say right into the microphone here.
B12506.
There we go.
There we go.
That's what she's here for. Booth, right?
Yes.
Definitely. All right. So thank you so both for coming in here. Good to see you, Kristen. All right. Thank you very much. So check them out if you're here, or check them out online. Up next, we are going to have David Clear, VP of Sales with Symbotic. I see some of you checking in here in the comments. Shout out Gwyn Scott over in Memphis, and Stephen Murphy watching from Ireland. Oh, very nice. Cool. Hey, Stephen, how you doing? And David, welcome in, sir.
Good to see you, Kevin.
It's good to see you, man.
It's been a while.
We've been talking for over the years. For I think the first Pro Man I interviewed you, right? 2019, something like that, back in the day.
Correct. I think that was my first podcast.
Yeah. Okay. All right. First all around here. So all right. And now you're with Symbotic, right? So and Symbotic, I understand, first time exhibiting at MODEX this year. Correct. Right.
Yes.
So tell us all about Symbotic for people that are not familiar.
Yeah, so Symbotic, we offer basically a full end-to-end warehouse solution. I would describe us as OEM and integrator all in one. So it's a fully autonomous ASRS, primarily focused on case operations initially. And we have been deploying these systems for about 15 years.
Yeah.
And then in recent times, we've also expanded and added in a brake pack solution. So now we can offer fully touch-free autonomous systems that are looking after both eaches and cases, full mixed pallet build for outbound delivery, smart pallets that are built around end user requirements, be it for in-store applications or multi-stop delivery. So there's very large efficiency gains with the systems as a whole, and I suppose if I do say so myself, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely cool. I've seen some videos, so definitely cool stuff that you're doing. And now with your system, right? I mean, you're like end to end, right? You mentioned pretty much the whole flow there. So I mean, is that what someone would call like a dark warehouse or lights out warehouse?
I would say it's pretty much as close to a lights out warehouse as you can do, certainly at the moment. And I think for most of us, I think we know lights out would probably, like true lights out is probably still quite a bit away, if ever. But you certainly have a very low number of manual touches within this operation as a whole. We would see throughputs, per person that are monitoring the system. Inbound, people would look after, say, 2 inbound cells, and those cells will operate at about 1,700 cases an hour each. So that's person, and then on the outbound up to about 1,350 per cell, tabs on the operation. So again, from a productivity per man hour, it is a very large jump from what you've traditionally seen.
Yeah, absolutely, and fantastic to hear that. And now our live stream today is focused on ASRS specific. The end to end here.
Yeah, so once we inbound any of the product, we would take in full pallets, break those down to individual cases, but storage system, and it's all native. Any totes or trays, and so storing the native cases within that racking system really close together. So you're looking at maybe less than an inch gap between them. So with that very dense storage, you would dramatically increase the storage footprint that you have within the operation as a whole. And then equally on the reverse, we pull things out in the order that they're needed. Like I said, in terms of building those smart pallets or carts, etc. Yeah. What we also have, as I mentioned earlier, with the new breakpack offering, is that system, that breakpack system, lives within the broader system as a whole. And so what you get there is you can have your each picking operation. So the same native cases get brought to a workstation. They will get decanted and opened, and you will pick to your outbound orders, and then residual stock would go back. And all of those things also get stored in the same. So in with your native cases or order totes that are out on each level, they will also get outbounded along with the native cases and built along those same pallets. So all that system goes together with very few touches, and again, you just get that kind of those real economies of scale with the system as a whole, and the feedback has been very positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tell us a little bit of, because when we think about we're talking about ASRS here, like specifically, right? Like a lot of the ASRS vendors that are out there are, just on that storage and retrieval part, but they don't necessarily have these other ends to it that you all are providing as well, right? So what is like the right type of kind of product fit, customer fit, like for Symbotic?
Yeah, so I think it's well known. We've done a lot of work in the grocery space in recent years. And so certainly anything in that space is obviously very well suited. So you would have, we can look after omni-channel operations there. So we can do both at a direct-to-consumer as well as direct-to-store. But the system is really designed quite agnostically in terms of it is operating primarily with cases. So we're pretty much agnostic to what is actually in those. And so we are doing recently a lot of work with wine and spirits companies. We are doing work with food manufacturers and food distributors. And what we've also now in recent years actually expanded into as well is micro fulfillment solutions. So we have a number of those systems live, and we have a an updated version of that, which is going live for the first time actually in about in the coming weeks, certainly during the summer.
Okay. We'll be ready.
That's going to be exciting. Those systems then are operating in back of store locations, and again can kind of marry in with the larger system as a whole. So if you've got some cases, we can handle them.
They got solutions, right? Definitely. So very interesting there. And I'm curious, for that end-to-end perspective, right? Like what goes into getting ready or preparing to be able to do that high level of automation within an operation?
Yeah. There, as with all projects like this, there's a certain amount of planning that you want to right size your systems. But I think one of the joys of a system like this is it can expand based on your increased requirements. If you need to put more through the system, you just add more inbound or more outbound. So from that side, from that perspective, you want to size, you want to identify what is your product mix that can and will go in there, and then I think you always need to look at what your exceptions are. And so what your from a building perspective as a whole, how you are going to kind of manage anything, because there's every system has some form of exceptions. Sure. And it's key to understand those, because there's very little benefit in improving 95% of your operation, but then causing yourself so much pain with the other 5% that you undo all of that good work. Yeah. So yeah, from those kind of project design phases, that's really where a lot of the work goes. The system is very modular and quite predefined in that sense. So, taking the basics of what you require, we can design things very quickly, very accurately. And you really just want to look at making sure you can manage all of those exceptions and details like that, and get your staff trained up that they can monitor and maintain, and do all the kind of basic troubleshooting and maintenance with any system like this, and keep everything moving and flowing as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we want, right? Keep flowing quickly. I like that. Definitely. So very interesting here to learn about Symbotic and dive into kind of what you all are doing. And congratulations on exhibiting for the first time this week. I will be over there to check it out when I get some time beyond this live stream, right? And be able to explore a little bit. And very interesting about hearing like the feedback too from attendees looking at that exhibit as well. But if people want to learn more, they're going to be here at the show and they want to see it. What's the booth number and what's the website?
Yeah, we're in Hall C. We are in booth C15868. I'm glad I had that memorized when you asked me the question. I think you can see the panic in my eyes for a second. And then the website is symbotic.com. And yeah, please drop by and we can walk you through what the details are. We're happy to catch people up. We have been reasonably quiet in one sense in the market as a whole. We've been focusing on a small group of customers, and we are now expanding quite rapidly beyond those. But
I've seen that. Yeah.
Sometimes, in some ways, we're maybe the best kept secret in supply chain. So,
the secret's going to get out there this week. Definitely. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, pleasure to talk to you, David. Appreciate you coming by, and definitely check out Symbotic. If you got cases, they say they got a solution, right? So, that was David from Symbotic. Make sure you check them out. Great end-to-end solution with the ASRS enablement in there as well. And coming up next, we're going to have Jason Stahl. He is Solutions Development Manager with MURATEC and Murata. Jason, welcome in. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. Good morning. How is well, we're just about to close out hour 1 of MODEX, right? So how's the first hour going?
It's been busy. It's a long walk over to this area from Hall B, that's for sure.
Yes. This, the show has just gotten absolutely massive, right? So
it's great for the industry, though.
Yeah. It goes to, I think it goes to show how many people are interested in all the kind of innovation that's happening, right? So really great. So you're here joining us with MURATEC, right? So tell us a little bit about what you all do.
Yeah, Murata is a manufacturer of automated storage and automated transportation, material handling. Been in business for over 80 years in the storage, logistics, and automation space.
Yeah.
Privately held Japanese organization.
Okay.
Been in the Murata family, still in the Murata family.
Oh, okay. Oh, family owned. Okay. All right. Great. And I was looking on your website. You got multiple different offerings, right? You have unit load, mini load, shuttle, sortation, gantry, right? So we're talking ASRS today on this live stream. So why don't you enlighten us a little bit and tell us what are the difference between all of those?
Okay. Let's start with the unit load. Traditionally, that's for pallet storage. A lot of warehouses have pallets, as you know, but it's not just for pallets. You certainly have a large variety of load profiles. You could have something larger than a pallet, or like a long bar stock, or really just pretty much anything. But a unit load is really focused on large storage and replacing manual pallet racking, where the advantage is height. Where your unit load gives you the opportunity to go 100 foot or above, where your traditional manual means are 35 feet or so, right? So you really can take advantage of vertical space from the unit load.
Okay.
Then coming down to the mini load, same idea. It's for cases or totes. We'll say loads less than 100 pounds.
Okay. All right.
Roughly dimensionally like a tote or a case. It could be really anything within that profile, very similar to the unit load, just smaller scale. The advantage here is having vertical storage, and usually in your smaller items, you find those in racks that a human can interface with, not taking advantage of height in facilities. So that you have the mini load, then the shuttle specifically is the same types of products, but instead of having an individual piece of automation such as a mini load crane, you have shuttles which are stacked on top of them. So significantly higher throughputs for companies that have a lot of materials moving in and out versus maybe just storage or something like that.
I see. Okay.
And then our last ASRS would be the gantry style.
Yeah, tell us about that.
And the gantry style is focused on a lot of layer picking.
Okay.
So, for example, from a grocery business, might have something perishable. They might have the plastic trays that say fruit or vegetables or something like that, or we can stack them vertically and just pick one layer at a time.
Picking the whole layer at the
or you
single
pick
time,
one or five or the whole layer
layers,
the whole time from above, right? So you're using floor space to be able to singulate or to get out one of this, one of that, one of this, one of that for a customer order. Versus maybe storing a box or a tote, it's a tray or something like that.
Yeah, and a fantastic explanation there, and certainly good to make those differentiations, because we talk about ASRS, like there's so many different versions, right? There's so many approaches to it, and obviously for product type, right? So I guess how do you, if I'm an operator, right, and I'm like, all right, well, I need to do something, I'm looking at ASRS, like how do I decide like what is the right version of ASRS for me? Like how do you go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really starts with the load profile. Depending upon what your load profile is, that really is going to drive in a direction one way or the other. It's either a unit load or something large, or it's a smaller scale system. Then we have a variety of those. And then from that particular place, the next thing would be how fast do you need to move it? If it's not very fast, there's a load. Gantry would be the right technologies to focus on.
Okay. All right. Good to know, definitely, and be able to kind of decipher that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to be here on the floor this week asking those kind of questions, right?
Exactly.
So appreciate you giving us this information. And I want to talk a little bit about safety, right? Because I saw you guys were recently recognized for your safety culture and your track record on safety internally, right, in your organization. But let's talk a little bit about how does that translate to the ASRS side? Like how does an ASRS help from a safety benefit within a warehouse operation?
First and foremost, let's start with the pallet part of the ASRS.
Sure.
So from a pallet standpoint, you can just see material. It typically manual means is forklifts going to high racks, maybe narrow aisles, and you have a human on a forklift having to do all that process all day long, where the ASRS takes the human off that forklift. It takes the human off of the forklift lifting 10, 15, 30 feet in the air. So it takes that chance and risk of not only failure or injury from the forklift, but damage to the product over and above safety.
And damage to infrastructure too.
damage infrastructure.
Sometimes, yeah,
of course,
I've seen some racks hit. Yeah,
exactly. And then from the front end of that, you also have the opportunity to, a lot of companies will pick products or cases off of pallets, where you can have a pallet delivered to a stationary person versus somebody having to drive around a facility and having a lot of moving traffic, which inherently is unsafe in a facility when you have a lot of moving equipment. Now let's kind of shift gears over to the cases or totes, and really one of the major safety benefits is the ergonomics of the system.
Okay,
you can think of picking in a traditional means where you just walk around and you pull a box off a shelf, or you reach above and pull a box down and put it on a cart, push it around all day long. Where the opportunity is where the operator can stand still and the material can just be delivered to them at an ergonomic height, and they can pick and place in an ergonomic way instead of having to do a lot of twisting, a lot of lifting, a lot of height, and maybe down or up, right? It really gives the advantage to the ergonomic piece, which is going to drive a lot of the safety.
It kind of keeps them in that golden zone, right? In a sense, right? Yeah.
From a weight, from a twist, from a motion standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, super important thing to consider, right, when you're looking at any type of solution. And obviously, the thing that we want to do in our operations is keep our people safe, right? And, it's fantastic to hear like that you all won that award and were recognized for that safety internally. And I can only imagine that then radiates like externally to your customers, and you're able to pass that on, which is a great thing to be able to have there. So when we think about like the project implementation itself, like how do you factor in that safety benefit into like your ROI or the benefit of the implementation?
That's a great question. It really starts with the equipment and with the team behind it doing the implementation. All implementations would start with how can we keep the human as safe as possible and away from the action? Is that safety fencing? Is that back netting? Is that guarding? Is that could be light curtains? There's a lot of different ways. The whole goal when we implement the system is starting from, is there a way a human can get into a danger zone? And if so, we need to guard that, protect it, or build a barrier around it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's great factor to consider here as well, right? Because often we think about like, all right, what's the efficiency gain? How am I going to maximize my space utilization? When am I going to get my money back and make more money, right? But that safety is an underlying factor there. So we need to be able to consider that. So Jason, really appreciate you coming by and talking with me and sharing this aspect of the ASRS side and giving us the breakdown of kind of the different components or the different types of ASRS. Very informative. If people want to get in touch or they want to learn more about MiraTech, what's the best way to do that?
Well, we're here in Hall B,
right
down the elevator, right down the escalator. We're right in front. So we'd love for them to stop by our booth. If not, they certainly can come to our website, miratech-usa.com.
All right.
Or reach out to your podcast. I'm sure you have our contact information.
Yes, so we'll be putting this information out there, definitely.
Any way somebody would be interested, we would love to talk to them.
All right, fantastic. Well, I appreciate the time, Jason.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming by and have a great show. That was Jason Stahl of MiraTech USA. Definitely check them out, and great look into the safety aspect of ASRS there. Really appreciated that. So up next, we are going to have Jack Beadle and Josh Helfand from Gebhardt join us here. Come on in, guys. How are you? All right. Good to see you both. We got Jack and we got Josh over here. Yes. Yep. Welcome in. You guys are with Gebhardt here. So tell us. ASRS involvement.
Absolutely. We, since 19 ASRS, we have a shuttle for totes, cases, trays, basically the full gambit.
Yeah, absolutely. So great to get you in here. And obviously, if you have the full gamut, you got some great information for us when it comes to ASRS. So, Jack, I know I heard you just gave a presentation, right?
A little clarification on that.
Yeah.
My presentation is today.
Oh, the presentation is today.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So let's get a little preview of that, maybe, right? You're going to be talking about the difference between traditional ASRS, right, and some of these kind of newer warehouse robotics that we're seeing out here, and then I'm sure we're seeing a bunch on the floor this week as well. So maybe, I guess, first tell us, like, what is how do you define that? Like, how do you define traditional ASRS and what constitutes like a newer warehouse robot?
Sure. I mean, definitions are tricky to make succinct. That's why there's a whole talk on it this afternoon, but I'll do my best.
We'll give me like a little warm up here, right?
Absolutely. So if you look at some of the, what I call traditional ASRS, a lot of them around since the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there hasn't been a whole lot of change in how they kind of operate, at least functionally, I'd say.
Okay.
Kind of advent of these more robotic-based technologies, and kind of simplistic way I'm defining relatively forward. You have a crane going in and out of a system. Its job is to pick, place something either at the end of the aisle or somewhere in some rack, right? You then accumulate a bunch of those aisles. You've created an ASRS system, right? Relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
These newer robotic systems, the main driving vehicle of the storage and retrieval operations, have a lot more responsibilities today. So that bot that is grabbing something, so it's a pick or a place, may also have to climb your system. It may have to navigate from one aisle or one level all the way across the system to the other. It may interface with other robots. It may have to navigate outside of that system as well. And then with outside operations such as picking, sequencing towers, direct connections to conveyance on the outside. There's a lot of different things that these robots now have to do. And that's all being orchestrated by a much higher level or complex or sophisticated software system that is managing this bot, managing every bot in the system. It's having to dynamically route this bot to other places. It has to manage traffic and avoid all the other bots so you don't create traffic jams. It's also managing the slotting, but it's also able to dynamically manage and adjust that slotting with effectively the swarm of different vehicles in the system. So effectively, you created a much larger, dynamic, and more universal storage system instead of an accumulation of a lot of different pieces of kind of semi-isolated operations.
Interesting. So it's kind of bringing it all together almost, like in that synergy there, and getting a little smarter, I guess.
Absolutely,
in a sense,
smarter.
right? So maybe Josh, maybe you want to tell us, like, how do you support that?
One of the things to clarify, we're here actually with 3 different brands.
Okay.
They're all Gephardt companies. So there's the Gephardt traditional brand, so that's what we're both branded with right now. We also have the race cars out here in
I
C
did
lobby.
see those, yesterday.
And so that's actually an important
cool.
part of our whole culture as a company is that the race car excellence. And then we also have another brand, Panaxis, and the Panaxis brand is doing a lot of data analysis, planning and prepping for being able to answer those types of questions. So how does a very complex system interact with itself, but then also even with other intelligences within an organization, the ERP system, HR systems? Like there's a complexity to these systems that requires a whole lot of upfront planning. And so one of the things that Panaxis brand does is help clients figure out, do we even have the data to really effectively plan for one of these types of projects? Often the data exists in disparate systems. So there's a whole project involved in just figuring out where is the data within a client's ecosystem. How do we extract that? How do we make sure that we understand and that the client even understands exactly what that data is saying? And then running different types of simulations to figure out what would automated storage look like? We actually are often reluctant to over automate with clients. We think you can get way out over your skis and you can introduce something that really looks great, but may not be necessary. But when you find the right fit and where automation really does make sense, and then as Jack's saying, the right type of automation is important there, you really do unlock value for clients. Those decisions, though, rely on data. And so there is an upfront process to really secure that data and make sure we understand what is the data telling us. And then with the client walking through what kind of solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there, sometimes getting over your skis a little bit on the automation front. So, and you said something interesting. You said that maybe like it looks great, right? But is it really like, did we need all of that basically, right? So tell us a little bit about how, because I'm sure, people will be out on this floor today saying like, ooh, that looks great. Like, or I think I need that maybe like, because it looks cool. But what are some of the reasons that you see people maybe get ahead of themselves a little bit or make that misstep that you pointed out?
And I want to distinguish, there's a couple different ways maybe that a company can do that type of misstep. One of them is the technology itself. They just buy the wrong solution or it's undersized. They didn't project growth correctly. Okay. So growth projections are a really important thing. And there's a little bit of magic and art in that. Sometimes you have really hard data to be able to project and forecast accurately growth, but often you're throwing darts. And you can also, you can undersize or oversize the technology, or you can just choose the wrong type of technology, or there's another dimension also, I think, to making, getting out over your skis.
Sure.
And that's some of the culture and the human factor impact. So if you're a business owner and you're projecting significant growth, and a lot of folks walking the floor are projecting a lot on right now.
Hopefully they are.
Well, America First, manufacturing in America has generated new demands on our operations in America across the board. But if you're the business owner, you kind of know what moving from a fleet of 30 fork trucks to 60 fork trucks would look like. And you also understand what your boardroom would look like. It would look basically the same. You have the same advisors, you have the same business leaders at the table making decisions. If you introduce a giant automated storage system, and there's a few people in your organization who know how that really works, that team now has a seat at your leadership table. And that introduces a new dynamic, which also can be very confusing to businesses. And you want to think through all of that also, where you're really making a cultural commitment also when you bring in automation, if you haven't done that before. You don't have the team in place already to manage that. And we like talking through that and helping clients think through those dimensions also. I think the main thing is the technology, the right fit, but there are other impacts that need to be considered as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you pointed out kind of the culture there, right? And the human aspect of the automation in itself, right? I mean, it is definitely a cultural shift and an overall just mindset thinking, right? In a way. And I think that's super interesting there. So Jack, maybe you want to tell us a little bit more. Josh mentioned kind of the data and getting that data in and some of the simulation stuff there, but how does someone that is like evaluating these types of systems, how do they leverage a simulation tool to be able to see like, is this the right fit, or what is this actually going to do to my operation, and what's going to be the impact?
Well, you just kind of explained generally the purpose of simulation, but
Sure.
That being said, that decision making necessarily on technology, and we kind of cover this a bit in the talk later as well, is it's got to also come from whatever you, the buyer, define as valuable to you and your company.
Mhm.
Now, there are other aspects out of, while a simulation may lay out exactly or as close as we can reasonably predict what performance of this system is going to be. You have to consider, what does ownership look like? What does my partnership with my supplier look like? How reliant am I on them? Right? We talk about these nice new dynamic and flexible and amazing technologies that are coming out. They may offer a customer that level of flexibility, right? Where if you don't have all of the necessary data to give us a very clean look at what the future is, these new systems are quite flexible, can be adjusted. You can add robots easily. You can, to give you a little bit more, expand storage relatively straightforward, and grow your storage that way. I can make them easy to connect new and different operations. But ultimately, you do have to consider as well, like, who do I have to rely on? Because this software that makes these systems so great, it is intellectual property of these companies. It is the thing that makes their product great. That will be pretty much what they own typically, right? Unless you have a very strong supplier commitment to them, but you have to look at, who do I have to rely on? What does that look like? What is service going to mean? Do we have the ability to service this equipment? Does our software necessarily interact and interface with their software in a way that's going to make the system perform like we want? So there's a lot of greater questions that often have to be answered, as Josh just alluded to, than just necessarily the simulation and emulation. But the simulation is certainly one of the first and most important steps when it comes to technology selection.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'd say also, so the next given a talk this afternoon, just kind of survey of these different types of technologies, comparing different use cases for why you might choose one over another. Tomorrow, our Panaxis team is also doing a presentation talking about data gathering, analysis, simulations, emulations, and that might also be interesting to some of the folks. Logically, I think the idea is you want to get to the tech talks today and tomorrow. So the Panaxis brand is doing the data analysis tomorrow, and Gephardt brand is doing this afternoon.
All right, fantastic, and fantastic to get you both in here to talk to us a little bit and give us a little teaser of your talk. Definitely looking forward to that, and obviously, great to hear about kind of the cultural mindset and shift and the recognition of that needs to go into some of these automation projects to be able to do that. So if people aren't at the show or they're going to be at the show, what's the best place to connect with you and learn more about what you all do?
Sure. Either of our booths work, the Gephardt or Panaxis booth. My talk today is at 1:30 in the Supply Chain Resiliency Hall. There's still space left. If not, we do have some handouts. Feel free to come by our booth, and I can give you a personal little walkthrough myself.
All right, fantastic. And what's the website?
Panaxis or Gephardt, either one.
GephardtUSA.com.
All right, got it.
I should also mention, if there are any racing enthusiasts, we're building a kind of a culture around racing also, because all of this planning and all of this technology hits the rubber in a similar way to a race. You have to show up and the car has to start and has to win. And we have a hospitality tent at these races. They're all over the country. So reach out if you're a racing enthusiast, you're listening to this and you're like, hey, that's interesting. I'd like to get to. It's also a nice kind of informal way to just get to know who we are. That would be a great opportunity also.
Obviously, and you can see the race cars right here in Hall C, not far away from us.
Correct. Thank you.
So thank you guys for coming by and have a great show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good to see you. Thank you. All right, so check them out definitely, and definitely if you're here at the show, check out those race cars. They're pretty sweet. I was looking at them yesterday. But up next, we are going to have Brian Quigley. He's the director of North America Sales and Consulting with Cardex. Join us, Brian. Welcome in. Come here. You can get close to me. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good to see you. You can throw the headphones on if you want. Hear me a little better. So Brian is joining us here representing Cardex. So Brian, we are talking all about ASRS this morning. It's part of MHI's industry group focused on ASRS. And Cardex you guys are like an installer of ASRS, right? So tell us a little bit about like what types of systems do you specialize in, and what does that actually mean?
So I'd quibble a little and say we're an integrator as
Sure,
well as an
yes.
installer.
Okay.
I mean, it's a distinction without a difference, but
Yeah.
we're doing sort of all sizes of projects that require various levels of integration. So Cardex has been around for 40 years. If you asked 100 people, what does Cardex do? Probably 80 of them would say we do VLMs. We have tens of thousands of systems deployed, working in the field today. About 5 years ago, Cardex recognized that there was an opportunity in the ASRS space, specifically with AutoStore, to do things a little differently, to do things we feel better. And so as a result, we are the fastest growing ASRS AutoStore provider in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And so integrator, apologies, did not mean to offend there, but yeah, definitely. And putting these together. So when we think about ASRS systems, whether it's the VLM version or the AutoStore version that you just mentioned as well, why would someone use an integrator versus like going directly to the manufacturer and getting them to put it in place? Like, what is the differentiating factor there, and why should you use an integrator when you're thinking about these types of systems?
Yeah, of course. So if you walk the floor today, you'll see literally hundreds of different automation companies out there. The market is increasingly complex. It's increasingly data driven. AI is taking a large piece of that data and enabling things to happen. If you have a very simple problem, you need a very simple solution, going directly to an OEM and sort of buying a machine for an installer to install, that makes total sense. Integrators, on the other hand, they can navigate this network. They can bring best-in-class automation, for instance, AutoStore, and they can layer in the software and the connecting pieces all throughout your building. So whether it's something as straightforward as conveyor to an ASRS to anything from an AMR to this sky's the limit this year. So an integrator is really going to be able to tie all those things together and solve your specific problem in your specific environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's great to be able to do, right? And understand, not only like this is the system that I'm going to put into your operation here, but then like what's on the side of it and what's going into it, what's coming out of it, like what do we need to accomplish overall. So it's great to be able to have that integrator to recognize that and work through that, right? So now, from an integrator perspective, right, there are lots of integrators out there, right? So tell us, like, how do you decide, or, if you're looking at one of these projects and you're going to use an integrator, like, how do I pick my integrator? How do I know like this is the right fit? And I'm sure I say Cardex is the right fit, but like, what are some of the factors you should consider like when choosing an integrator?
Well, that's actually a great point, and I'd actually say that Cardex may be the right fit. They are probably the right fit. We've got a lot of experience across everything from pallet cranes in our M-Long division to sort of storage for industrial spaces with VLMs. To sort of higher velocity, higher density with ASRS. But I think what makes us a little different is we're really approaching it. Let me take a step back. So there's 3 specific things that are going to change, how you think about your integrator, how your experience with your integrator goes. One is, do they really understand your solution or understand your problem? Are they coming up with a solution that's going to fit you? Businesses, grow 5%, 10%, 20%. There's always constraints around budget. There's always constraints around density and operations. That's a complicated problem to solve, right? So Mondays may be off the charts where Fridays are slow. You may have a busy season or seasons that needs to be flexible for your automation to respond to that. Having an integrator that's really going to work with you and understand your problem, not sell them a solution set that they have on a shelf, quote unquote, but really work with you to say, hey, here's how we'd best approach this problem. And I can tell you, with no exaggeration, Cardex has looked at problems and said, you know what, this is probably not the right solution set for you. You should be talking to this company or this specific automation. Doesn't happen often, but we're not trying to put square pegs in round holes. That's just not what we do. That's not our model, and it's not why we've been successful. The second piece of what separates various integrators is the software. Is their software really going to work with your operation? Is it going to make your life easier, or is it going to just add additional complexity and problems? Is it going to talk to the other softwares in the building, right? There's a suite of automation in any warehouse today. Everything from your ERP to your WMS to your machine controls, they all need to work in concert, or all you're doing is spending money to move one problem from one location to another. And so having an integrator that really understands your business and has software that's flexible enough to work with your automation suite, so that you're actually solving problems and enabling growth, that's really important. And then third, what we feel is almost the most critical piece is staying with the customer, right? There's a model out there, from the ancient days where we're going to put in, $10 million of bespoke technology. We're going to hand you the keys and walk away. Of course, everybody has a support desk, but when you call that support desk, when something goes wrong on a Friday, is that person going to be aware of your operation? Are they going to know the people in your building? Are they going to understand sort of what your SLAs and sort of what was installed and how it works and how to get to it fast? I think there is too often, it takes 5 phone calls and 10 emails to get to the right person, and that just adds time and delay. And that's really where we think that we're doing it better. Our software is extremely flexible, and we really pride ourselves on doing all, every project is important. Every project needs to go well, and then we stay with the customer over time.
Yeah. And I think those are great call outs there. Like, cause this is, the person that's going to be doing the support for you, right? And being able to get you through that project. And I love that you said too, like that is like, all right, well, we've talked to people and it's like, it's not a fit, right? So like, you got to go here, or here's a recommendation to do something differently. But one of the other things too, that like an integrator brings into play, right? Like you do auto store, right? But obviously, there's many other companies that also do auto store too, right? But you bring a uniqueness in a sense from a software perspective, or some other things. Like you guys had the creative snap vac, right? A little vacuum to clean the grid there. But tell us a little bit about like how do you weigh as an operator evaluating these solutions, right? Like how do those kind of unique little things or big things like within the software that you're providing and what you're adding on to like an auto store, how do you factor those into decision making?
Sure. So I mean, it really is in 2026, it's innovate or die, right? There's just the pace of technology is increasing, and if you're not leading, you're falling behind. We recognize that, and so we have focused on one Cardex this year. So we're not selling multiple ASRS systems. We're not selling multiple sort of technology packages. What we're doing is leveraging our best-in-class VLM. We're taking AutoStore and taking it to the next level by innovating within AutoStore. So you mentioned Snapback, for instance, right? So AutoStore is an extremely reliable system, 99+% uptime. Generally, what's going to bring an AutoStore system to a halt is you need to go clean something off the top of the grid. It's a minor problem, but it's still
a little bit of dust.
It could be a critical hour. It could be an FTE that needs to take care of this, that could be doing something more value add. So we saw an opportunity to innovate, and we created Snapback. It's an automated vacuum solution. It snaps onto your existing robot on the grid, so you don't need to buy a new robot. It's Snapback. And it will clean in your off hours. So it'll do third shift. It'll do slow days. It'll do whenever the full capacity of the system is not being used, you can put it to use cleaning the grid, and that only increases our uptime. So net result is Cardex AutoStore systems have the highest reliability on what is an already reliable system. So we're 99.9, 99.8% across our entire network. Additionally, so we see opportunities where operators may not be working as efficiently as they can, or there may be ergonomic concerns. So we've developed intuitive pick assist, the IPA we call it, for the beer lovers out there. It really leverages 3D cameras and AI to project all the information your operator needs to pick at the station as efficiently and as quickly as possible. So that's, including scanning and others, right? So those are just a couple of examples of how we're working within the AutoStore ecosystem to bring new technologies and leverage what is already a proven and an effective solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of comes into the differentiator factor there in a sense, like in some of that decision making. So I'm happy you could share some of those kind of features and uniqueness with us that Cardex brings to the table. So really appreciate you joining us here and coming in to chat a little bit and talking to us from the integrator perspective to be able to do that. So if people want to connect with Cardex or learn more, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so come by our booth for sure. You absolutely are welcome to come by and see our technologies, integrated VLMs and auto stores, play with our intuitive pick assist, see a snapback in action. Also, hit our website, and one of our reps will give you a call right away.
All right. Awesome. So thanks so much for coming by here, Brian, and representing Cardex. Great to learn about from the integrator side. And we got a big fan out there going crazy for Brian here at Cardex. So
I appreciate your time. Have a great day.
All right. Have a good one, Ryan. So diving deeper into ASRS here as we continue on. Up next, we're going to have David Lind join us. He's the VP of Sales of North America with Modula, and Modula is focused on VLM. So we're going to dive deeper into that. Come take a seat here. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
How are you? Oh.
Excuse me.
All right. This is David from Modula joining us here on the live stream today. David, how's the morning going? With Modula. So tell us a little bit about Modula for those that aren't familiar.
So Modula is a manufacturer of vertical lift modules, pretty much exclusively. We also make horizontal carousels, but our main emphasis is on the vertical lift module. We manufacture our HQs in Italy. We have a plant in Ohio that we are expanding from 170,000 square foot. We're doubling the size of it, and that is under construction. Our construction is completed now, and we'll be moving some of our machinery over there in the next couple of months.
All right, fantastic, and great to hear about that growth as well. So you're focused on vertical lift modules, as you mentioned, right? And we're talking everything ASRS this morning as part of the MHI industry group. So tell us, where does the vertical lift module fall within the ASRS category?
Yeah, great question. I'd say the better question is, where doesn't it fall?
Oh, okay. He's going to twist it on me. All right,
wouldn't you
Tell
agree?
us.
It's like every single place I go, everywhere I go, every warehouse I visit, every factory I visit, every distribution center I visit, everyone is squeezed for something. There's a problem to be solved, but often it can be a problem of efficiency. It can be a problem of not exploiting the building.
Sure.
It can be a problem, all sorts of problems for how to get more product in the hands of the right people at the right time. So the vertical lift, the beauty of it is it's a very, very small footprint, and it can go up to 63 feet in height.
63. Okay, that's big. Yeah, that's tall.
So
yeah.
we've got 4 of them in our factory in Ohio at 56 feet, but we can go 63. So if you think about 120, 180 square foot of footprint, getting thousands and thousands of square foot of product onto that, you're really allowing the building to pump out revenue for you without taking up that space, withholding your parts and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us, like, what kind of items or products like are the right fit for a VLM?
Yeah, great question. The right product. So I'd love to say there's an easy fit and there's a low hanging fruit for the VLM, but I've seen everything go in there, from reels, even pallets of products, just getting stuff off the floor.
Pallets too. Okay.
But getting the real bang for the buck. If you're talking about square footage, then if you've got parts, maintenance and repair, small parts, then you're going to get massive volume and really high density into the VLM. But we use them on assembly lines for picking. So you'll see some small engine parts, you'll see reels, you'll see wiring, cabling. Really hardware stores are using them just to maximize their space.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's really no key product. If you want to maximize your bang for your buck, then obviously the smaller the product, the more square footage you'll get. But at the end of the day, the building has to bring a revenue to the owner and to the organization.
Yeah.
For the building to bring a revenue, then it has to be utilized for what is getting its revenue from. It's not getting them from storing the parts that are making the product.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned you've seen pallets put in there too. Sure. I always thought of VLMs as like, smaller parts and stuff as you were talking about. So what does that look like? I guess visually, like
so
place a pallet in there.
If you go back a step, the philosophy is just getting stuff off the floor. You want to have you want to have your factory or building as clean as possible to utilize for your manufacturing or for your distribution. So the modular pallet looks very much like a standard vertical lift, relatively small footprint going up to 60 feet, but it has a loading bay that you can go in with by manual or by automation. You can drive in a pallet into it. It picks a pallet up, and instead of having the traditional VLM tray that you put products in, it's actually a rail that can hold the pallets on.
Okay.
And the beauty is they're interconnectable.
Yeah.
So you have numerous modular pallets, VLMs, side by side, and it can move the pallets through them and go all the way up to your ceiling. So you're calling down pallets anywhere that you want. So again, you'd have them perhaps at the back of a building. You have all your pallets go in. You can also pick. So there's a window for you to pick out individual pieces from pallets if you wish. So it's really, really handy, again, just for efficiency and following the modular philosophy of freeing up space for our customers to do their business.
Interesting. You got to send me a video of what that looks like. I'm visualizing that in my head, but that's very interesting, and obviously a lot of flexibility there when it comes to the VLM itself in particular. And you mentioned that you've been growing a lot in the U.S. I mean, globally you're growing, but U.S. is really growing. So what is driving some of the demand for these VLMs?
So I say there's lots of things that's pushing that demand up. One is that it's still a relatively little known automation in the US. It's really well known in Europe.
Sure.
You'll see them everywhere. But I'll go to any show around the country and people will say, what is that?
Yeah.
So it tells me that a lot of this demand is basically awareness. Our marketing team doing a good job, but more and more people looking for solutions. If you think about the VLM, it's kind of like automation 101 for a warehouse or a factory. It's the first thing you could probably put in because it puts all of your products in one place that your robotics can pick from or maybe use as a buffer. So it's kind of it's maybe the least complicated piece of automation you can put in a warehouse or a building that allows you to access lots of other types of automation. I would put it like that. So people are examining their utilization of the building.
Yeah.
They're working out how to perhaps upscale their staff from being pickers and warehouse operators to something else in the building, or maybe getting rid of them completely. So how do you do that? You do that by automating, which is why everyone's at MODEX this week. And we do it by putting as much as possible into a tiny footprint and letting them exploit the vertical height.
Yeah. I mean, we got a pretty high ceiling here. We could get a lot of parts in here, right?
This would be ideal.
Yeah.
You'd have a podcaster going up every 6 feet.
A podcast for every level, right? Rotate us through. So very interesting there, and obviously very interesting to hear about the VLM and the awareness increasing too. I think that's pretty interesting there. I mean, are you seeing? I'm curious because I was thinking about VLM as I was preparing for this discussion, going through like some notes and obviously I've heard a lot of applications that you mentioned too, like around parts and manufacturing and putting like screws and fasteners and things like that in there. But do you see people utilizing this at all for like any kind of e-commerce piece picking kind of stuff? Tell us a little about an application like that.
Yeah, great question. Kevin. So the short answer is yes. And the VLM was, let's say, it was kind of serving that as well. So people were getting creative with the VLM by putting totes onto the trays. We did a number of case studies putting even refrigerated totes, because you also have electrical outputs on the VLM trays. So putting totes on it. It wasn't really satisfying the distribution and e-commerce needs. So Mogic came up with our new product, the FlexiBox. FlexiBox looks again just like a VLM, but inside it is the elevator that goes up and down that will bring you down a tray, but it's bringing you down pre-sorted totes. So maybe think of that as smart picking. So picture the VLM trays all loaded inside the VLM on the back and the front of it. Instead of having trays, it's got totes, hundreds and hundreds of totes.
Yeah.
We have a shuttle inside it that pre-picks one tray. So it selects a tray and says, right, Kevin wants to bring down 9 totes, 35 kilo, 70-pound totes of products that are going to be his entire pick. So 9 totes will come out. You have a pick from each of them. So there's a smart picking going on without any human interference. It can be completely done by the ERP system. So when the picker comes in the morning, every tray that comes down is a complete pick. So imagine for batch picking, you're coming down and you're just absolutely hammering out product. Because with the VLM, unless you're really, really smart in how you load the tray, you're probably going to get 1, 2, maybe max 3 picks per VLM tray, what comes down to you from the vertical lift. On this, you're getting nine totes, completing a tray, and every tote's a pig.
Interesting. I think that's fantastic, especially from the e-commerce perspective there, like to be able to have that down. I mean, that's a huge efficiency gain to hit all those 9 picks like at one time, like at one presentation, basically, right, off of the tray. And obviously, you know, I'm thinking about this, and I'm like thinking about my friends in the 3PL world, right? And I think, you know, being able to leverage something like that in such a smaller square footage, right? I mean, that revenue per square foot, I imagine, goes way up, right?
There's very few people that can go as high. So if you think about your 120, 150 square foot of footprint, you're using no space of that building. And you're going up 50, 60 feet, and everyone a single pick. But you should come over to our booth, B15713. And we have a flexi box there.
Okay.
That's doing exactly that. So yeah, it's an evolution in distribution. But you've hit the nail on the head. It's for faster picking. It's for the 3PLs. It's for anybody who's trying to get as much throughput through the building and through the machine as possible.
All right, fantastic. And we'll definitely be over to check that out at the booth. If people can't get to the booth this week because maybe they're at MODEX, what's the best way to learn more about it?
www.modular.com. Have a look at us on the internet. And of course, you can always reach out. There's a phone number on it. Reach out to us. Have a look at our material. There'll be a place for you to put down a message. We'll get back to you right away. You can also reach out to me, David Lind. My contact details will probably be on Kevin's portal.
We'll put it out there definitely for you, David. Yes, yeah. He's a fantastic guy to talk to too. So definitely talk to him either way. But excellent. David, appreciate you coming by. Appreciate you enlightening us a little bit more on VLM and some of the possibilities there. And we'll definitely come by and check that out and share some video of that for the folks out there.
Excellent. We have a happy hour tomorrow, Tuesday, 3 p.m. to 5.
There you
come
go.
Along if anybody's here, come along to it. And Kevin, you're very welcome.
Oh, there you go. The invite is right there. So there you go. Happy hour tomorrow, and check out that Flexi box too.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming by, David. Good to see you. All right. So that was David Lynn of Modula talking VLMs, vertical lift modules. And up next, we got Hugo, who's going to come in here representing George Utz, and we're going to talk to him about how they fit into the ASRS ecosystem, talk a little bit about containers and their approach to that. So hope you are enjoying this live stream today as we focus on one subject matter. So a little different than we've done at previous shows, but appreciate everybody tuning in. If you got questions or anything, feel free to drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, if you're going to be here at the show this week, stop by and say hi. We're in C16002, which is just outside of the Hall C. Hugo, welcome in. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Good to see you. All right. Well, welcome in here. You're representing George Utz, right? So tell us a little bit about what you all do.
So George Utz is a engineering-led company that manufactures bins and totes, trays, basically returnable transport packaging for warehouse automation and intralogistics, amongst other industries that we serve.
Yeah, absolutely. And a critical part, right, of the ASRS ecosystem in itself, which we're focused on in our discussion here this morning on this live stream. So tell us a little bit about how does that fit specifically into the ASRS world?
Sure. So basically, we are the linchpin of the supply chain. Mm-hmm. We are holding the product and transporting the product through the supply chain. Through the supply chain flow. In an ASRS system, the totes don't become just packaging; they become part of the infrastructure of the system itself and communicate with the system. And that's what we do.
All right, fantastic. And then from that perspective, like when we think about, we've been talking a lot about this morning with some of the ASRS integrators, some of the ASRS OEMs themselves, right? And when we think about the project overall, right, at what point do we need to start thinking about like these containers or these totes that are going to go into the system and actually hold our product in the first place?
Oh, that's a great question. It really depends on what kind of system the more customized the system, the earlier you have to consider packaging and the transport packaging, especially if it's a specialty or specialized application. The tote is a critical part of the system itself, and how it's going to manage the product is important to consider earlier on. Sometimes people do make that mistake, that they think that they can just use something off the shelf and not customized. And many times that's not the case. It's while we do offer some standard platforms, and there are obviously integrators or systems that use standard platforms, it's not always the case, and that's something that George Root specializes in. We like to customize products and solutions for our for our users.
Interesting. Okay, and so kind of customization is a little bit of the way to go, right? So tell us, like, you know, if you just grab something off the shelf, right, and you put it into your system, what are some of the challenges that might present themselves from that?
It's all about optimizing the system. So size is one of the main considerations. What size is the ideal size for the parts that we're going to put in?
Okay.
Also capacity, and not just in size, but load capacity. Is this a retailer of fabrics and clothing? It might require a certain tote with a certain type of reinforcement in the base. Is this heavy parts, fasteners, or nuts and bolts type of a thing, then it may need to be heavier duty and have maybe bin compartments to separate different parts. So it all really depends on the application, but there is a myriad of ways you can customize a tote for the application. And the goal is, again, to start early so that you can optimize the solution, so that you get the customer gets the best value for what they're
yeah, absolutely. So don't think of the tote as necessarily it's just like, the last thing we just need to throw in the system, right? It's something like we need to put in the plan early on, right, and be able to make sure that we're getting that full optimization to be able to do that. So now, when it comes to these totes or these containers that are getting put in the ASRS system, I mean, have we seen any kind of like innovations around containers or things like this? What's kind of some unique things that have kind of come to the surface in recent years?
Yeah, you'd be surprised how much.
Surprise us. Tell us.
So surprised how much innovation does go into totes. Traditionally, the way they were designed is, let's just make them very durable. Let's put a lot of plastic into them. Let's take standard platform or sizes, and kind of design around that. Well, that turns out to be not as optimal. There's been a lot of innovations in ways of material and ways of design. Some of the design tools that we use now are use simulation to try to optimize the material, so that you use the right type of plastic in the right locations. So you have a lighter yet equally or even more stronger tote with less material. So that's one way to optimize your container. There's other design considerations and features, the way you design the base. And in ASRS, one of the things that's really important is to make sure that your part is very precisely manufactured. And it's something we've specialized over the years. If you look at our plant, most of what we do is totes and trays that are highly specialized to be used in automation. And it requires a lot of precision. And again, because there's different applications, the base design may be different. And so using the right know-how and the right tools, design tools, is important. Then material selections also has come a long way. There are materials, depending on what the application is. Polypropylene itself can be purchased of many grades. We have what we call UDS industrial compounds, where they're basically vetted compounded materials that serve the specific application best. And so they're optimized for the application. Some customers are heavy into sustainability, and they want the circular economy back into their totes. And so we have that kind of material that we can take back and put back into making more of totes for them. There are other customers that may have cold chain applications that require special compounding. Other applications that just require regular PEP or HDPE, but need to last longer. And so, we've The other big innovation is also on the communication. Like I said, totes now can't just be a box or a packaging solution, but part of the infrastructure itself. That means that they have to be communicating with the automation.
Oh, interesting. So they're like a smart tote almost?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah?
No,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
Smart RTPs are the future. To me, digitalization of basically every part of the system is already here, and in that technology is increasing and getting smarter. So the basics, barcodes and things like that, where your system can read it. Then you have the other level, which is RFIDs and that type of, whether it's active or passive RFIDs. But now, something that we're pioneering, and that is something that's been talked about in the industry for a decade, more than a decade, but we're actually doing now, is smart devices. So basically little computer chips. And it was cost prohibitive up to just recently. In partnership with a technology company, System Loco, we have totes that actually have smart devices that can trigger certain input based on action, like have you opened the tote, or what temperature is the content of the tote, this type of thing, which, like I said, up to very recently was kind of a pipe dream or used for very high cost,
like high value
goods. Now it can be commoditized thanks to the advancement of technology.
That's super interesting. Yeah. And I think it's very interesting to hear, because, as we try to get, more, I guess, diverse in some of these systems, right? And we see some ASRS systems that are, multi temperature zones and things like that. And you touched on like having the sensor be able to read like, what is the temperature, or did the temperature go out of range or something like that, and be able to track that down and have just greater visibility overall, right? I think that's really an interesting innovation there. So definitely interested to see more of that and continue to see how that evolves. But very interesting to talk to you here today about kind of the container aspect of the ASRS side and how that is such a critical component for the system as a whole. And also interesting to learn about some of these innovations and how the solutions or the containers are evolving over time. So we'll be looking forward to learning more about these smart totes and containers as time goes on. Yeah.
Stop by our booth. We have some samples of some of that technology.
Okay. Definitely. Yeah. Sure. We'll come check it out. Definitely. And what's the booth number if people are here? Do you know what building is it? It's okay. They didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but yeah, definitely check them out here. And
what's
then
our booth number, Grace?
Yeah.
B14811.
There you go.
I should have known that.
It's okay. It's day one, right? So by day 4, you'll know it definitely for sure. And what about the website if people aren't here? How can they check it out?
Bootsgroup.com.
All right. So definitely check them out for all the container needs and everything that goes into that. So Hugo, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Great to talk to you here today. So that's Hugo from George Oots, focused on those containers and all of that stuff. Up next, we are going to, Hugo. We got Hugo's bag here, a little souvenir. Thank you. Up next, we got Mike Rossi, Director of Sales at Savoy, coming into the booth here. Right here, sir. Good to see you. Welcome in. Kevin, good to meet you too. You throw on the headphones there. You'll be able to hear me better.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Welcome in. Say hi to the folks at home here that are tuned in.
Hello, everyone.
All right. How's day one going so far?
A little slow, but I heard it just started picking up about an hour ago.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Yeah. We're just getting started here with MODEX. So you are with Savoy, right? So
Savoy.
Savoy.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry. I got to bring my French out there. But Savoy. So tell us a little bit about Savoy and what you all do.
Well, we're an integrator and OEM of distribution, turnkey distribution systems. So about 50% of our projects, we're pure integration type work. So we'll go ahead and we'll use whatever the best fit equipment is out there in the market for that opportunity. But we do manufacture our own shuttles and associated GTP equipment and things like that. So kind of a hybrid integrator and OEM.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us a little bit about like how do you fit into, because we're talking ASRS this morning specifically, right? So tell us, how do you fit into kind of the ASRS ecosystem overall?
All right, so we're relatively new when you look at some of the the main competitors, the big guys out there.
Sure.
We're relatively new to the North American market, so I think we're probably 6-7 years old right now. So we're starting to get our name recognition out there. But like I said, full turnkey type automated systems, whether that's what we manufacture is our shuttle equipment, case and tote handling. Or we can branch out into pallet shuttle systems too. So it's whatever really fits inside a four-wall distribution system.
Yeah, absolutely, and good to know that and what you focus on. And you mentioned there that you manufacture some of your own shuttles and things like that too, like where we see other integrators are using like OEM ASRS, right, and installing those and integrating those. So tell us a little bit about like what goes to the decision to leverage like existing that an OEM is already doing versus like building your own.
Okay, so yeah, we're so everything that starts with us when we get an opportunity, we really like to kind of dig into the data, and it's data driven. So that kind of what sets the design criteria for what we look for, and if it's kind of a what I consider our product, shuttles, high throughput type of system, of equipment. So when we look at the data, and if that fits our equipment, all right, we'll go ahead and use our equipment. But if we see that whatever that criteria is doesn't fit, we'll start looking out into other people's equipment. And then as far as we won't use other people's shuttles equipment, but if it fits shuttles, we'll use our own. And that's kind of how we kind of go about our business there.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, and tell us a little bit too, because when we look at the market, especially around automation within the warehouse space, right? There's been a lot of talk about being able to remain flexible, right, and have flexibility. But I think, when we think about some traditional kind of ASRS systems specifically, right, they seem like they're kind of pretty like concrete, right? I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure that goes into that. So how does someone maintain flexibility with an ASRS?
Okay, so for us and our equipment, like I'm going to speak about that for shuttle equipment specifically. So when you look at how like a company's may change over the years, because I know like back in the 90s, a lot of retail storefronts, right, and then it went to e-com, and whether it's a shift or something that's going to go back to more malls or retail storefronts. The nice thing about the shuttle equipment is order profile changes doesn't really affect the equipment for us. So when we look at that kind of flexibility, if your order profile is changing, it doesn't really matter to us. So whether it's a small number of lines per order or a large number of lines per order, that equipment's going to handle that operation.
Okay, good to know, definitely. And what about when we look at like scaling, right? So say I don't have an ASRS yet. I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, like I think this is a solution that'll work for me for whatever use case. But how do you make sure that when you implement that project or you plan out that project, that is also going to be able to grow and scale with the business as well?
So what I like to say we do is we kind of look at the end game picture, which takes time to get to that end game picture. So when we work with our clients, we're really working with kind of getting to know their operations, getting to know their their warehouses, how they do things. That way, when we start looking at like a new system for them, we start with an end state, so and make sure we build to that end state, or then scale back to whatever their current day need is.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think that's it's very interesting to hear, because obviously that's one thing where we talked about a little earlier in the live stream this morning with another guest too. It was kind of like, all right, well, how do you find that sweet spot where I don't get too little and then I don't get too much too as well, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's always a sweet spot, and for us, when we're looking at balancing, it's always a balance between customers always want to put a lot of inventory within the system, which adds cost. So we're always looking at balancing between inventory and throughput, and then finding the right that would fit within the system. So legs that data driven, obviously a system. So when you're looking at the data, there's always cutting the data certain ways that you can balance throughput, inventory, and things like that. So.
Yeah, interesting, and really great insights there on how to kind of approach that a little bit and think about that and how you kind of support that as Savoie too as well. Now, you also have a new partnership with Adabotics, right?
We do.
So tell us a little bit about that. I'll say we just had Adabotics on the podcast on Friday, right? So we just talked to them. So tell us a little bit about your partnership and what that's all about.
Okay, so I'll take it one step back. So we've had a long time relationship with Lafayette Engineering, which now owns Adabotics.
Yeah.
So when they acquired Adabotics, it was kind of a natural fit for us to partner with them. And their equipment fills a void in a gap for our equipment, like I said. So with us being an OEM of shuttles and that being kind of a higher throughput type of piece of equipment, it fills kind of that mid to lower range throughput system for us, which, our system's probably, when you start getting the low to mid range, we start pricing ourselves out of the opportunity. So the Adabotic system fills that void for us greatly. And with them being part of Lafayette Engineering now, we had kind of that relationship was already built.
Yeah. All right, fantastic, and good to see them, coming back into the market too. I think definitely, and being able to keep that technology out there as well. So really appreciate you joining us here today, and let's close our conversation out here with one tip that you would give somebody if they are considering ASRS.
I would just say for us, out of the box kind of thinking.
Yeah.
It's just don't corner yourself into what you've always done in the past from an operation standpoint. So it's if you have to change some processes and things that you've done for 20 years, just keep an open mind and like I said, it's really open-mindedness.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good tip, definitely. So appreciate that. And if people want to learn more about Savoie, what's the best way to do that?
You can go to our website. We have a website, or if you're here at the show, stop by our booth. I don't have the booth number exactly, but either one of those would be a good start, I guess.
All right, fantastic. And we'll definitely share that information as well. So Mike, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, and have a good rest of the show. All good.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mike. So that is Mike. And then we're going to get our last guest of the morning in here, Andy Lockhart, joining us. Oh, coming in with the double name tags.
Oh, yes. I'm important.
Fantastic. Good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. Great, thank you.
Yes. So Andy coming in, he's going to be our last guest of the day on this ASRS live stream. But you are the Director of Strategic Engagement with now Toyota Automated Logistics, right? So let's talk about that first. Toyota Automated Logistics. This is kind of a new brand, right? That's brought some different companies together. Tell us about it.
Yes, so it's actually the combination of Van der Lande's warehouse business unit, Bastian Solutions, and Viastore. Now, Toyota Industries has owned all these companies for a number of years. So Bastian and Van der Lande have been owned since 2017. So actually, it's really sort of looking at it and saying, how do we grow in the most optimal way? And it was to bring those three together. And that's as of 1st of April, we are one. We are Toyota Automated Logistics.
There you go. All right. Well, congratulations on that, bringing everything together. And I guess tell us, obviously, I mean, it kind of makes sense to streamline that from the business perspective, but then what is, I guess in turn, like what is the benefit to the customer or the potential customer?
So what it really brings together is a sort of integrator first approach. And the beauty of what we're actually doing, which is slightly different, is all of the retailers, the customers are looking, they need the right solution for their business. Maybe they don't need a shuttle. Maybe they don't need this or that. So we can bring together the right solution regardless of what it actually is. And if it happens to be products that we make, all well and good, but it doesn't have to be. So, in the older days of Van der Lande, we'd lead with the Adapto shuttle, which is a great shuttle, but it has, it's got certain things it's used for. Now, with our Toyota Automated Logistics approach with integrated first, we're going to look at the customer's needs, find the right solution, whether that is just integrating third-party products or using our own products. So that way we make sure that the customer gets what they need. And then the other piece that we're bringing in is the whole life cycle. So it's not a, here's your solution, thanks, goodbye, sign the contract and go.
Sure.
It's, we'll be there for the lifetime. So we'll offer support offerings all the way through from full on-site capability through to hotline and spare parts, but for the life of the system. So whether that's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, which is a bit of a different take, especially for a lot of integrators who don't have that infrastructure to do that life cycle service. So we're bringing that life cycle service into that integration piece. So that really goes us from, if you like, from initial designs all the way through to that long-term life cycle support.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. And then kind of creating that whole ecosystem almost in a sense, right? Yeah. So we're talking ASRS this morning, the industry group. I see you got your MHI badge on here. Your chair council of ASRS?
Yeah, well, because I'm vice chair of the ASRS group.
So
therefore I guess I'm promoted to the chair council. So.
There we go. So representing the group here, but tell us, Toyota Automated Logistics, how do you get involved with ASRS, right? And what type of things are you doing from an ASRS perspective specifically?
So specifically, we use ASRS in pallet applications. So we use pallet shuttles, pallet cranes, and then in the sort of tote carton size things, we use reloads and shuttles there, cube storage. So pretty much virtually across the whole gamut of ASRS is that we will actually implement those in one way or another. So that means with our involvement with the ASRS group is whether we're using our own product or third-party products, which are also members of the ASRS group, we're involved in that, or even down to some of the component suppliers that support ASRS. So like scanners or anything like that, they're members of the ASRS group because they provide a product that goes inside an ASRS to make it work well.
Sure.
So we partner or get involved with a lot of people across that whole ASRS group.
Yeah, absolutely, and covering kind of the whole gamut there, as you said, right? So tell us a little bit about we're closing out this discussion here from this deep dive into ASRS this morning. So tell us, like, from your perspective, like, what is the advice that you would give anybody that is considering ASRS or looking at ASRS as a potential solution for their operation?
Well, there's a couple of things. Firstly, you've got to make sure that you understand your business case, because we've seen issues out in the market where it's really fundamentally it's been the business case, not the ASRS, that's been the problem. So first, to make sure you get that right. But there's also, if you go to the ASRS website, there's actually a applications and tools on there that can help you actually understand what ASRS you might need, how to build a business case for it, how to get the ROI. So there's a lot of tools out there you could use. So use this combined knowledge that the members of the ASRS group have brought to that. So you're getting not just one company's view, but you're getting a whole host in that way. So that brings you some value. And then when you do engage with companies like ourselves, make sure that you ask the right questions and get them looking at things in the right way, and not just, I need one of these, and just widen your scope a bit in terms of making sure you understand everything and make sure that they're delivering something that is actually going to work and scale. So, but go back to the ASRS group before you start, and there's a lot of tools out there that could help you sort of baseline it before you start.
Yeah, absolutely. And great resource, the industry group, right? And we have the website up there on the banner, mhi.org/ASRS. Super easy to remember. Great pick there. Definitely from a domain perspective. But, when we think about that, and you mentioned asking the right questions, right? So give us like a couple examples. Like what are the right questions to be asking versus just, like you said, like, oh, I think I need that.
Yeah. So really understand your business and what you're trying to achieve. So, for instance, if I'm only running this ASRS for 8 hours, is that gonna be the right solution for what I need? Versus 20 hours or something. So, so it's really making sure you understand what your business needs are and asking the vendors, based on my business needs, what does that mean for what you do for a solution? Obviously, things like, what else is important to you? it can be like, obviously labor is obviously a very important one for most people, but what aspects of labor are important? Are there other aspects important? Do I have to get orders out within 10 minutes? Which are all things that you should understand about your business process, and then making sure that you've got your data so that you can ask those right questions. So, and I think sometimes people don't fully understand their overall process. They understand bits of it, but the end-to-end process is really important. So you can ask questions around your process and what impact that might have on anything that a supplier might be suggesting to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's great advice there, and being able to understand that and get your information and your data together in a lot of sense. And that has been kind of a common theme here in some of the conversations this morning too, right? And not just for ASRS, right, but any type of solution that is out there that becomes critically important to be able to get the results that you expect, like at the end of the day, right? So great to have you join us here, Andy, and I think perfect for you to round out the conversations this morning as the chair counsel of the ASRS industry group. But if people want to connect with Toyota Automated Logistics or learn more about what you all are doing, what's the best way to connect with you here at the show? Or if they're not at the show, what's the other way to connect?
So obviously, if you're at the show, B14719, big booth with Toyota written on it. Can't miss it.
Sure.
You can find me on LinkedIn. I can give you my email, which is, I can sound it out as it's andy.lockhart@toyota-al.com. Fairly easy, I think, but not too long anyway.
Yes, definitely. And we'll put all the information at thenewwarehouse.com as well for people. So Andy, appreciate you joining us here today, and hope you have a great rest of the week and
I appreciate
show.
it. Thanks, Kevin.
Absolutely. So that is Andy Lockhart from Toyota Automated Logistics, also representing the ASRS industry group. So appreciate everyone for tuning in here today for this deep dive on ASRS this morning, live from MODEX here in Atlanta on day one. And we will be live again tomorrow morning for day 2. We'll be joined by our friend at Snap Fulfill by Synergy Logistics, and they're going to be bringing us some conversations on warehouse tech, and they're also going to be sharing their new product announcement with us as well. If you are here at MODEX, definitely connect with us. We are having a party tomorrow night too. Warehousing after dark. MODEX in 2028. There will be 2 MODEXs, one here in Atlanta, and then they're going to do a MODEX West in Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Convention Center. So very interesting news out of MHI this morning. So with that, I want to say thank you for everybody joining us here this afternoon. We're going to be out on the show floor recording some podcasts for future releases. And if you missed any part of the conversation this morning, you can see the replay immediately after we end the stream, and we'll also be clipping this and sending out the individual through the New Warehouse. And for all things the New Warehouse, check out thenewwarehouse.com and connect with me on LinkedIn for further discussions. Appreciate your time, appreciate you joining us, and hope this was a great deep dive on all things ASRS for you. Have a great rest of the week, and tune in to this same channel tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. for another live stream from MODEX Day 2. Have a great one.